Welcome fam! Before we dive into this beautiful story, please kindly subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share your thoughts below. The morning sun streamed through the windows of Jada's Atlanta apartment, casting golden light across her wedding dress, hanging like a promise on the closet door. At 29, she had spent the last year planning every detail of this day. The sunset ceremony at the historic Swan House, the reception at the Four Seasons, even a playlist that would carry her and Marcus through their first dance as husband and wife. Her phone buzzed at 7:23 a.m. and she smiled, expecting sweet morning words from her fiancé. Instead, 3 cold lines shattered her world. "I can't do this. I'm not ready. I'm sorry." No call. No explanation. Just digital abandonment on what should have been the most beautiful day of her life. Jada stared at the screen, her heart hammering against her ribs. Around her, the apartment buzzed with pre-wedding energy, her mother humming in the kitchen, bridesmaids giggling as they did their makeup, the florist calling to confirm delivery times. But in that moment, sitting on her bed in silk pajamas, Jada felt completely alone. The man who had promised to love her forever had just walked away with a text message. She read it again, hoping the words would somehow rearrange themselves into something kinder, something that made sense. They didn't. What happened next would be talked about for years. Jada didn't scream, didn't throw her phone, didn't collapse into the dramatic breakdown everyone expected. Instead, she sat in perfect stillness for exactly 10 minutes and 34 seconds while chaos erupted around her. Her mother burst through the door, phone pressed to her ear, frantically trying to cancel vendors. "Baby, we need to call everyone. Tell them not to come." But Jada raised her hand, silencing the room with a gesture so calm it was almost eerie. Her bridesmaids clustered around her like worried birds, mascara-stained tissues in hand, whispering about what they should do next. Her father paced the hallway, muttering about that coward and what kind of man. But Jada remained motionless, her breathing steady, her eyes fixed on something beyond the immediate disaster. In those 10 minutes, something shifted inside her. The devastation was real. She could feel it sitting heavy in her chest like a stone. But underneath it, something else was growing. Something that felt like power. When she finally spoke, her voice was clear and strong. "Keep the flowers. Keep the guests. Keep the music." She stood up, smoothing her silk pajamas, and looked directly at her mother. "I'm still walking down that aisle today." The bridal suite at the Swan House fell silent. You could have heard a pin drop on the marble floor. Her mother's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Her maid of honor, Keisha, who had known Jada since college, was the first to find her voice. "Girl, what are you saying? There's no groom. Marcus is gone." Jada moved to her wedding dress, running her fingers along the intricate beadwork she had fallen in love with months ago. "You're right. There's no groom, but there's still a bride, and she has something to say." What followed was 2 hours of frantic preparation unlike any wedding morning in history. Jada got dressed with the same care she had planned, her mother and bridesmaids moving around her in stunned cooperation. They did her makeup, fixed her hair, and helped her into the dress that transformed her into something radiant. But this wasn't about looking beautiful for a man who couldn't appreciate her. This was about honoring herself. As the afternoon wore on, word spread among the wedding party. The groomsmen, confused and angry, had scattered. Some guests had already arrived and were milling about the venue, unsure what was happening. But Jada's people, her real people, rallied around her with fierce loyalty. By 4 p.m., as the sun began its descent toward the horizon, everyone understood. This wedding was still happening, just not the way anyone expected. The doors to the ceremony space opened at exactly 5:30 p.m., just as planned. The string quartet began Pachelbel's canon, and 200 guests turned in their seats, expecting to see a traditional bride making her way to her beloved. Instead, they saw something that would be burned into their memories forever. Jada Williams, radiant in white silk and dignity, walking alone down the petal-strewn aisle toward an altar that held only a single microphone. Every step was deliberate, graceful, powerful. Her train whispered against the ground, and the late afternoon light streaming through the windows seemed to follow her like a spotlight. Guests' faces shifted from confusion to recognition to something approaching awe. Cell phones emerged from purses and pockets. Someone started crying. An elderly woman whispered, "Lord have mercy. What is this child doing?" Jada reached the altar and turned to face the crowd. The music faded to silence. For a moment, she just stood there, taking in the faces of everyone who had come to witness what they thought would be her wedding day. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for the microphone, but her voice, when it came, was steady as stone. "Thank you all for being here today. I know this isn't what you expected, but I need you to stay with me. Today was supposed to be about two people choosing each other," Jada began, her voice carrying clearly through the suddenly silent room. "It was supposed to be about love and commitment and building a life together. And while one person decided he couldn't make that choice, I realized something this morning. I've been waiting my whole life for someone else to choose me when I should have been choosing myself all along." The words flowed from her like water, finding its course. She talked about the year of planning, the dreams she had built around a future that evaporated with a text message. But more than that, she talked about the years before, the times she had bent herself into shapes that weren't quite right, trying to be worthy of love that should have been freely given. She spoke about the morning's devastation and the clarity that came after. "So, today I'm doing something different. I'm walking down this aisle in this beautiful dress surrounded by all of you beautiful people, and I'm making a commitment. Not to someone who couldn't see my worth, but to the woman who deserves to be seen, valued, and loved completely. I'm marrying myself today, and I promise to never abandon me the way I've been abandoned." By now, there wasn't a dry eye in a room. Her father was openly weeping. Her mother had her hands pressed to her heart. Even some of the men were reaching for tissues. The speech continued for 12 minutes, and every word was pure gold. Jada talked about self-love not as consolation prize, but as the foundation everything else should be built on. She spoke about the difference between being chosen and being settled for, about knowing your worth and refusing to accept less. Her voice grew stronger with each sentence, and by the end, she wasn't just speaking to her wedding guests, she was speaking to every woman who had ever felt not quite enough. "I don't know what my future holds," she concluded, "but I know it will be built on a foundation of self-respect and love. And if love comes again, real love, it will be because someone recognizes what I already know, that I am whole, complete, and worthy exactly as I am." The applause started slowly, then built like thunder. People jumped to their feet, cheering and crying and celebrating something they had never seen before. In the back of the room, someone had been streaming the entire speech live on Instagram. The viewer count was climbing 500, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. Comments flooded in from strangers. "Queen behavior. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I'm crying at work right now. But Jada didn't know about any of that yet. She was too busy being celebrated by people who loved her, dancing to the same playlist she had chosen for her wedding, eating the same cake she had taste-tested months ago. The only difference was that this celebration was entirely about her. While Jada celebrated her self-love revolution, her phone, forgotten on the bridal table, buzzed nonstop with notifications. The Instagram live video had exploded. In 6 hours, it reached 4.2 million views. Screenshots of her speech were shared across Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. #SelfLoveWedding was trending. Women around the world were sharing their own stories of choosing themselves over settling. But 20 miles away in a Buckhead apartment, Marcus Chin sat on his couch watching the viral video with growing horror. He had spent the morning feeling relieved, thinking he had dodged a bullet. Marriage was a big step, and he had convinced himself he was just being practical. But seeing Jada's speech, reading the thousands of comments calling him a coward and her a queen, reality hit him like a truck. He watched her transform from the woman he had left into something luminous and powerful. The comments were brutal. This man really fumbled a queen. Imagine being so stupid you let this woman go. He's going to regret this for the rest of his life. Marcus started typing a text to Jada, then deleted it. Started again, deleted again. How do you apologize for breaking someone's heart on their wedding day? How do you explain that watching her shine without you makes you realize what an idiot you've been? 6 months later, Jada was sitting in a professional podcast studio in downtown Atlanta, speaking into a microphone with the same confidence she had shown at the altar. Left at the Aisle had become one of the top-rated podcasts on Apple, with over 2 million downloads per episode. What started as her personal story of betrayal and self-love had become a movement for women everywhere who were tired of settling for less than they deserved. She interviewed divorce attorneys, therapists, life coaches, and most importantly, other women who had chosen themselves over situations that didn't serve them. Letters poured in from listeners around the world. Your story saved my marriage to myself. I left my toxic relationship because of you. I'm teaching my daughter about self-worth because of your podcast. Corporate sponsors were lining up. She had a book deal. Speaking engagements at universities and conferences. The woman who had been abandoned at the altar had built an empire from her pain, transforming her personal devastation into a platform that helped thousands of other women. Her assistant knocked on the studio door. Jada, you have 17 interview requests, and oh, she paused, looking uncomfortable. Marcus has been trying to contact you. He's called the studio, emailed, even tried to follow the podcast's social media accounts. Jada looked up from her notes, eyebrows raised. Marcus? After 8 months of silence, now he wants to talk. The call came on a Tuesday evening while Jada was reviewing podcast analytics in her new penthouse office. She had moved out of the apartment she had shared with Marcus, trading up to a space that reflected her new life. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Atlanta skyline, awards and recognition letters framed on the walls, a bookshelf filled with titles about entrepreneurship and empowerment. When his name appeared on her screen, she almost ignored it. But curiosity won. Hello, Marcus. Her voice was calm, professional even. Jada, His voice was shaky, uncertain. I've been watching what you've built. The podcast, the book deal, everything. I made a terrible mistake. She could hear the desperation in his voice, the regret. I wasn't ready then, but I am now. I see what I lost. I see what you've become. Jada listened quietly as he apologized, as he explained his fears and his regrets. The man who had seemed so sure of himself when he walked away now sounded lost, grasping for something he had thrown away. When he finished, she took a deep breath. "Marcus, I appreciate the apology. I really do. But I need you to understand something. I'm not the woman you left at the altar anymore. I'm the woman who found herself there." The silence on the other end was deafening. "I don't need you to be ready for me now," she continued gently. "I'm already ready for myself." 1 year after her viral wedding day, Jada stood before another altar, but everything was different this time. She wore a simple blue dress and held a leather-bound book instead of a bouquet. The couple before her, Sarah and James, had met through her podcast, their story one of conscious choice rather than desperate need. As an ordained minister now specializing in intentional commitment ceremonies, Jada had found her calling in helping others build relationships from wholeness rather than brokenness. "Love is not about completing each other," she told the couple and their guests. "It's about two complete people choosing to share their completeness." The ceremony was beautiful, authentic, and exactly what Jada had always dreamed weddings could be when they came from the right place. After the ceremony, as Sarah and James celebrated their new marriage, Jada checked her phone. A notification showed that Marcus had watched the live stream of the ceremony. Below it, hundreds of comments from her followers. "This is what real love looks like. Thank you for showing us the difference between needing someone and choosing someone. You've changed my life." Later that evening, Sarah tossed her bouquet, and by some twist of fate, it landed directly in Jada's hands. The crowd erupted in cheers and calls of, "You're next." But Jada just smiled, holding the flowers close. In the comments of the live stream, someone asked the question everyone was thinking: "Will you ever walk down the aisle for yourself again?" Her response broke the internet one more time: "I walk down the aisle for myself every single day." If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories of transformation and triumph. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they are enough, exactly as they are. And tell me in the comments, what's the most important lesson Jada taught you? Let's build a community of people who choose themselves first. Your story matters, and we want to hear it.